Hey folks, welcome back to HeartGold vs. Crystal. We are here at Mount Silver, and we are about to take the long climb up to the summit to take on the greatest challenge that this game has to offer. You'll recall that we were here briefly before to go check in and catch Moltres, but now we are taking on the full brunt of this final dungeon. And it's not really much of a final dungeon. It is long, it does require HMs to get through, but there are 1, no trainers, and 2, no puzzles. So essentially, it serves the purpose of being a long dramatic lead-up to the climactic finale. And in a certain regard it works that way. It works pretty well to have you constantly ascending, and it does represent the gain in elevation a lot better than it did in the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal, because there's a lot more stairs. Eventually you'll see some snow, but overall, unless you just are completely without repels, then the trek up there will be more or less uneventful. Go over and grab some items if you want. I don't know what they are, and I don't care. But it's not really non-linear enough for it to be confusing in terms of navigation. And it's just kind of I don't want to say leisurely stroll, but a little bit of a leisurely stroll. On the other hand, I do want to take some opportunity to look at the art direction, especially on the outside, because I think this is some of the best visuals that this game has to offer. Like that. Look at that grass. That is a nice palette choice for the grass. I mean, I'm pretty sure snow doesn't pile up on trees like that. But overall, I think the aesthetic here is pretty good and unified and stylish. It's muted without being drab. But then you go inside, and all that goes away, and it's just drab. Whoever does the interior decoration for this mountain clearly needs to step up their game. But here we are on the summit, and here we are with the greatest trainer in the series. This here is Red. Red is the protagonist of Pokémon Red, Blue, Yellow, Fire Red, and Leaf Green. And he is, as far as I'm aware, the most powerful trainer in the series thus far, at least in terms of sheer levels. He may not be the most difficult in terms of Pokemon selection, but he is a dangerous little guy. And he's only like 13. Anyway, he leads with the iconic Pikachu, of course. This should be noted that this Red here is not the Ash from the anime, nor is he the Red from the comic series that many people like to think that he is. He is a representative of the protagonist of the first generation Kanto games. Now, a lot of people really like the idea that he's a multimedia representative because he has the Lapras here, which is a reference to his Orange Islands expedition in the anime. Nice try. But anyway, Pikachu goes down to Earthquake. It's pretty simple. But what's really dangerous about a lot of the things here is this Blizzard move that you may have seen me talk about. It combined with the hail that is occurring. Because hail plus Blizzard means Blizzard that always hits. And I have trouble with Blizzard, as you might imagine. It's a powerful move, and a lot of my Pokemon aren't too fond of it. Like Frida, for instance. Frida, who is the only one with the super effective against Lapras, is weak to Blizzard and would be one-shotted, so I essentially had to stall him out of Blizzards, because I couldn't rely on Blizzard missing for Frida. That'd be unfortunate thing. That'd be impossible, but it would be nice. Anyway, next up is Charizard. This is the first of 3 Kanto starters that you will see here. And as you remember from my dealings with Lance's Charizard, I like to use Rock-type moves on this guy, and so should you. Now it is faster, it does have Air Slash, so it can cause me to flinch, or just completely straight out faint. Which is unfortunate, because now what am I gonna do against this guy? Use Everett? I mean, you can tell by the levels here. Level 84. This is a significant step up, even from Lance. And as I've complained about on multiple occasions in multiple locations, the game doesn't really give you a great place to train for this fight, because, again, the Lance's strongest Pokemon is about 10 levels below this. You can refight the Elite Four over and over, but that's still going to be a lot of fighting the Elite Four. The level curve just doesn't really work here. Anyway, after a long and arduous journey, we finally come to the inevitable Everett versus Charizard. You can see there he pulled out a move called the Blast Burn. That is essentially a Fire-type Hyper Beam, and I keep it in 1 to show that how Everett is awesome and lives by hair, and 2 to show that it is kind of a signature move of sorts. It can only be learned by Fire-type starter Pokemon, and Charizard here demonstrates that, and his other 2 starter Pokemon will demonstrate the respective Hyper Beams for their types. Anyway, one thing that I can actually say in the benefit of Blast Burn here is that it does leave him completely open. It requires a recharge turn, so that means I can bring in basically anything and hopefully KO. Ideally it would have been Klaus, but that was not in the cards. And another nice thing is that Hail does cause constant damage to most of his Pokemon, just not Lapras and not... Actually, yeah, just not Lapras. So if you are having trouble and do need to whittle these guys, as I did that Charizard and as I will need to do for many of his later Pokemon, that will work to your benefit. It will constantly drain them. Anyway, here we have a Venusaur. You'll remember Venusaur. It is the final stage of Bulbasaur, and the first final evolutionary stage in the National Pokédex. Anyway, it is part poison, but as we've observed in the past, Webster's Psychic isn't really great because of Webster being mostly physical attacker. So eventually this turned into Frida using Psychic instead. Frida was weak to Venusaur's Sludge Bomb and possibly other things, so that was annoying. But eventually Frida was the best option, other than Everett, obviously. Bree could have done a little bit, maybe, with Air Slash, but there are probably other complications in there that I've since forgotten. Speaking of Bree, here's Bree. And then we have Snorlax. Snorlax is the other bit of evidence that people like to use either in favor of this Red being from the manga or the anime, because both manga and anime protagonists had a Snorlax. Again, I think it's just more that Snorlax is awesome. The in-game, I think, explanation for that is that Red caught one of the Snorlaxes. There are 2 Snorlaxes available in Red, Blue, etc. Red caught one of them, and then the other was sleeping outside Diglett Cave, and you caught him here. That's my explanation, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, Snorlax. I think Snorlax behaves pretty similarly to most Snorlaxes that we've seen in the world, other than it having Blizzard, which is annoying as hell, because it is a powerful move and it won't miss. But other than that, yeah, it'll use Rest. It probably has Snore or Sleep Talk or something. And overall, your best option is to come in with a fighting move. Or like use Destiny Bond or something, I don't know. Snorlax is meant to be a pretty durable, bulky Pokemon. So, durable bulky Pokemon require durable, bulky Pokemon to take them down, or really strong Pokemon, but I don't have any of those. And as I've mentioned with previous Snorlax, the whittling tactics that I so desperately love won't always work, because he can just sleep away any poison or burn, or other status ailments for that matter, so I essentially have to rely on weak moves, Leech Seed, and Hail. And again, Hail is working to my benefit. Anyway, Snorlax has its own Hyper Beam-like move to unleash. It is Giga Impact, which is essentially the physical equivalent of Hyper Beam. It's a normal type and everything. And like Hyper Beam, it requires a recharge turn afterwards. So you can either be awesome and live by hair, or have a free switch into something else if your Pokemon does faint. I think that's overall the big drawback of the Hyper Beam moves for Red, is that it does allow you to get somebody else in conveniently and easily. Anyway, he only has one Pokemon left, and that is Blastoise. If you couldn't see this coming, I'm not sure what to tell you. Blastoise, of course, is the final evolutionary stage of Squirtle, which happens to be my favorite Kanto starter. And Blastoise is the third Pokemon on this team to have Blizzard, but that's not what he's using right now. He has Focus Blast, which is a powerful special fighting move, which there aren't many of, I'll admit. I have one of them, Aurasphere, and this is basically the only other one that comes to mind. I'm trying to think of what that is meant to be used against. Like, grass types don't care about Focus Blast. Electric types don't really care about Focus Blast. But a lot of my Pokemon really aren't fond of it. I will admit that. Anyway, as I said before, Blastoise does have Blizzard, and this Hail, of course, is not going away ever, unless you use a different weather move. So it's gonna be a constant issue, and you may likely need to whittle him out of blizzards, stall him out of blizzards. And Webster somehow was amazing and manages to live a blizzard. I'm honestly appalled. I would not expect Webster of all people to survive a blizzard. I mean, he has not survived many much less powerful things. But this gives me a good opportunity to stall him out of blizzards, clearly. Because then I can just repeatedly use Hyper Potions, and he only has 5 blizzards. So as long as he sticks to it, it will be a winning proposition. But of course that's boring. So let's bring in Frida. And hopefully he's out of blizzards by now. I assume I wouldn't bring in Frida if he weren't. And Frida has the Giga Drain with Blastoise's name on it. And he's ready to deliver. And there's the Water type Hyper Beam move. I guess we never got to see it, but Venusaur has a move called Frenzy Plant, which is the Grass type equivalent. And of course, Hyper Beam move, he requires a recharge turn. And just in case for some crazy reason Giga Drain wouldn't KO him, it would drastically heal Frida and likely allow Frida to live another Hydro Cannon. But that's not the case, because Giga Drain doesn't quite take him down. But Hail does. I don't even get the satisfaction of killing him myself. There's some sort of artistic irony in that. But yeah, that was a long and tedious stall fest that I edited the hell out of. Let's see if it's the case in Crystal after this commercial break. Alrighty, final fight in Crystal now. And there are actually a number of notable differences here. First off, all of his levels are actually significantly lower. They're still higher than Lance was in the rematch, but they are about, I think, 7 levels lower on average, something like that. Secondly, as you can see here, all of my Pokemon are significantly weaker, about by 15 levels. And that is entirely intentional, because I do believe that this fight here is significantly easier than the fight in HeartGold for a number of reasons. But first annoyance, unfortunately, is that this Pikachu, being 30 levels above, is so much faster than Sandra. He got a Charm in, that decreased Sandra's physical attack, and that made Earthquake not a one-hit KO. But on the plus side, now we're using up all of his full restores, which is fantastic. That means you can't use it on his more dangerous Pokemon. And again, Pikachu is kind of the one I'm worried least about. I didn't even really address it before. It's an electric type, use a ground type, use Earthquake. Whoever has Earthquake controls Pikachu's destiny, basically. But this does mean that Sandra really isn't in good shape for taking on whatever comes in next. But it's Venusaur anyway, so why even bother worrying? Now then, Venusaur, as before, is Grass Poison, of course. And the question is, does it have any Poison-type moves with which to annoy the hell out of Frida? Apparently not, because it's using Solar Beam. And this is something actually to note about all of the starters. The elemental Hyper Beams that I mentioned, which are Frenzy Plant, Blast Burn, and Hydro Cannon, were all introduced in the 3rd generation, and this being a 2nd generation move, or game, doesn't have those moves. And that means I can't reap the benefits of having that recharge turn, but it also means that they don't generally have as powerful elemental moves to use against me. And that lets Frida kind of devastate this thing. I mean, that thing was an absolute jerk in HeartGold, but here it went down very quickly. Anyway, next up we have our good friend Charizard, upon whom apparently we cannot prey upon his rock-type weakness. So let's just take the standard Everett route. Charizard is still something to be worried about, though, because he has Flamethrower, and a pretty decent special attack stat with which to back it up. But again, a Rock-type move will devastate him. Klaus using Surf would probably be decent, although, especially at this kind of late stage in the game, the difference between Klaus's physical and special attack is becoming larger and larger. And then getting rid of the burn, just in case I want that little bit of extra damage from my physical moves. But this was most definitely a Whittlefest. It took quite a while to get him down, but thankfully I got rid of all of his full restores on that Pikachu, which means he is helpless while I slowly whittle him and use Hyper Potions. Don't follow my example. Use a Rock-type move. Anyway, next up is indeed Snorlax. And I don't have Aura Sphere or anything, so I don't actually have a super effective move against him. But now, something to be noted that has been present throughout the entire fight, but it only becomes relevant now, is that he doesn't have any sort of hail thing going on, because as I learned earlier in this playthrough, there is no hail in 2nd generation. And that means I don't have a constant whittle on Snorlax, and that means I definitely need to set up Leech Seed. Ideally I would set up Toxic too, but he would just use Rest anyway, so probably not as big of a deal. But now that I have the Leech Seed on, it is a constant drain on his health, and I can once again employ the Everett stratagem of whittling the hell out of them. Maybe even throwing a Confuse Ray for fun. Now, if you're as under-leveled as I am, level 50 compared to a level 75, there is a very real chance that Snorlax could possibly outspeed one of your slower Pokemon, but it is really, really slow. So you shouldn't be super worried, unless he paralyzes you with Body Slam. But it's a thing to keep in mind, that the large level disparity can actually throw in some wrenches to previously mastered matchups. Because you might be thinking, oh, he's like super weak in this stat, or ooh, he's super slow. But it's good to keep that in mind. Because hell if I am grinding up to level 70 or whatever to fight this, where there isn't even a second round Elite Four to get experience from. I complained about the level curve in the remakes. Remakes were better in terms of the level curve. It was higher, but you had better places to grind. Here, good frickin' luck, you're still fighting level, what, 50, 55 Lance over and over, attempting to grind for level 80s. Good luck. Anyway, Blastoise. Using Surf. I'm not sure if it has Blizzard. Actually, I'm sure it definitely has Blizzard. So if you are using a Grass type against him, keep that in mind. There is no Hail, which means Blizzard won't necessarily hit, but it is still a dangerous thing, and it will hit more often than you want it to. I know this because I had to get all of this Blastoise's Hail Blizzards to miss my Hoppip so many years ago, and it was not a pleasant experience. But anyway, I got in a Leer there in case I wanted to bring in Everett for some whittling, and lo, it was so. And using Whirlpool, what a pansy. But yeah, kind of again, a lot of the matchups in this fight and in this run were just Everett whittling things. And it's just not great. There is a little bit of strategy in that I got in the Leer and I'm using Iron Tail with hopes for a physical defense drop. I don't know if I actually got any. And that takes care of Blastoise, and I believe he only has one Pokemon left, and it is the biggest difference between the two versions so far. And that is that he has Espeon. And this almost redeems the fact that I use Everett basically exclusively. The final match in this series is a mirror match. But yeah, for the remakes, he actually swapped out his Espeon for a Lapras. The reason behind that, maybe it's to capitalize on the Hail, maybe it was to connect it to the anime in a certain way, maybe it was to connect it with a different kind of special Pokemon that you receive in the original games. I don't really know. But the important thing is, Everett is immune to Espeon's Psychic-type moves, and is gonna like try to use Swift or something, and no one cares. The point is, Everett finally has a legitimate, like, type-based advantage against this thing, rather than simply having the bulk to live whatever it dishes out. Regardless, it still took a long time to take down, because Everett just is not a powerful offensive player. A little, as climactic as I wanted that matchup to be, it wasn't very climactic. But that takes care of Pokemon Trainer Red, and that also takes care of HeartGold versus Crystal.